Hi, folks. This is Mark by Mark A. Foster, Ph.D., for the Institute for Dialectical Meta-Realism. I wanted to offer an initial critique of the Wobblies. The Wobblies is a nickname for the industrial workers of the world, which is a syndicalist organization, a syndicalist union based in Detroit. It is now very small. At one time, it was rather large. It's not large anymore. I will, in the future, I think, offer more sophisticated critiques or more detailed critiques of the Wobblies. This is basically just a critique of one simple concept that the Wobblies have introduced, which I find to be very problematic for a variety of reasons. So I'm going to look over to the left on my side, probably to the right, your side, and read you briefly what the Wobblies have said. This is actually a part of their proclamation, which established the Union. The working class and the employing class have nothing in common. Okay, so that statement was made during the launching of the Wobblies. There are a number of other syndicalist unions throughout the world, but the Wobblies, believe it or not, are the largest, even though they are rather small. That statement, to me, is almost self-refuting. How in the world could anyone say that the working class and the industrial class have nothing in common? You mean like the fact that they're both human beings, Homo sapiens? They are really, really pro-union. I would say almost to the point of absurdity. Now, am I pro-union? Yes. I am pro-labor union. As a member of a lifetime member, I should say, of the National Education Association, I am very definitely pro-labor union. My father was a member of the now defunct Distributed Workers Union, also known as as District 65, which was the only communist union in the United States. Syndicalism and communism should not be confused. There is some overlap, maybe, but they are different. Their objectives are different. Syndicalism is focused almost entirely on unions. So members of the different syndicalist organizations are kind of, I guess you could say, hyper-unionist. What they feel is that in order to have a transformation in the world out of worker-based capitalism, you need to have strikes. So syndicalism centers on strikes. And I suppose that is why they feel that the industrial class and the working class have nothing in common. But here's the problem with that. If you say they have nothing in common, then why even bother talking about them? Why even bother dialoguing with them? Of course they have something in common. Of course they do. And in my mind, the objective of communists ultimately should be to make the bourgeoisie proletarian. That seems like a reasonable thing to me. The bourgeoisie who survive the revolution, and I hope that will be the vast majority of them, if not all of them. I have no idea. But those individuals, I would hope, would then become workers like the rest of us and no different than the rest of us. If they had nothing in common with us, then how could we plan for the future? What would we do with the future? It seems to me that the only resolution to that syndicalist idea is the annihilation of the bourgeoisie. I mean, I can't think of anything more horrifying. As much as I despise capitalism, I do not despise individual capitalists. There is a difference. One is a social class, and the other are individuals. I know some people who are capitalists, and many of them are nice people. I would argue that they are misguided in being capitalists, and I would hope that the time comes when they are no longer capitalists, when they become proletarians like the rest of us. But still, I wish them nothing but the best as individuals. That's not the same as saying that I wish capitalism the best. I don't. I want capitalism to be demolished as a system. You know, in other words, the capitalist world system is what needs to be destroyed, not individual capitalists. At least I hope not. And yet, the Wobblies, by saying that they, members of unions, workers, have nothing in common with what they call the industrialists, which I guess is their way of talking about the capitalists, are basically eliminating the possibility of any kind of dialogue, because their basic principle is that my adversaries, my political adversaries, my economic adversaries are not only my adversaries, they are people that I want destroyed. I do not. As a critical realist, I am a compassionate person. I genuinely care for people. I think it's a shame that the capitalist world system exists. I think it's a shame that so many people, both capitalists and workers in many cases, have been trapped in the capitalist world system. But I certainly don't want to see anybody die, because to me, we are all Homo sapiens. We all deserve to live with each other, ideally in harmony. Now, I'm not talking about some pie in the sky dream. I'm talking about reality. What I would like to see is a world free of capitalism. And a world free of capitalism obviously means a world free of capitalists. But that does not mean necessarily a world free of the individuals who happen to be capitalists. Those are two entirely different things. And yet the Wobblies seem to combine them into one. So for them, wishing for the end of capitalism is the same as wishing for the end of the industrialists or the capitalists. I'm sorry, but that simply makes no sense to me. Not only that, but syndicalism is very much a first world tendency. It is focused upon the kinds of unions that exist in the first world. Are there some unions in the third world? Yes. But that's not what syndicalists are talking about. I know. I've read their literature. They're talking about first world syndicalism, first world unions, not third world unions. Because if they were, in fact, talking about third world unions, they would not make that kind of, in my view, childish statement of condemning all industrialists or capitalists because of their class. Now, again, I condemn the class. I do not condemn the people in it. Now, if there are capitalists or industrialists who are unwilling or will be unwilling to give up their position of dominance, okay, I will condemn them too. Sure, sure. But we have not yet arrived at that time. And I think that time is a long way into the future. So delving into the future, imagining the future without capitalism, the future based on socialism and communism, is really a difficult thing to do. I honestly am not sure how to do that because I have nothing to compare communism to in the third world, at least not in the form that I would like to see it, namely without the first world. In other words, we have never seen socialism and communism in the third world without the dominance of the first world. To me, that is the heart of the problem. So ideally, ultimately, what needs to be eliminated is both the first world and capitalism. And in fact, I would say that the first world and the capitalist world system are fundamentally the same. I don't really see much of a difference between them. I mean, to me, um, the first world is dominated by capitalism, and so the end of the dominance of the first world should ideally mean an end to the dominance of capitalism, or more bluntly, the ends of capitalism itself. So that is basically what I wanted to say. I have a lot more that I can add to my critique of syndicalism. I think it is a very superficial tendency, a very superficial current. There are syndicalists who are Marxists. Some of them actually are right-wing. There are syndicalists who are anarchists. They are called anarcho-syndicalists. But in this podcast, I was primarily concerned with the Wobblies and with their dictum that workers and industrialists, capitalists, literally have nothing in common. I think that that view needs to be condemned. Whenever anyone says it, there should be no tolerance for that kind of demi-reality, to use Roy Baskar's term, disunity, splitting Maya. If we want to create a world of co-presence or unity, then that needs to involve both the workers and the industrialists. It can't just be the workers alone. The industrialists need to become workers. So that is all I had to say for the time being. This is Mark by Mark A. Foster, Ph.D., for the Institute for Dialectical Metarealism. Have a pleasant day and an even better day tomorrow.